things that I'm going to tell you throughout this video. I'm going to talk about the pricing, what I charge, what I've learned, and what you really need to stay away from. Okay, this is an exciting video because we're going to go on a little road trip today to look at an Airbnb that I make $11,000 a month off of. Well, $10,900 a month, but it vacillates between month to month. And I'm going to show you how you can do this too, because this is one of the hottest things to do in the market right now. What I love about Airbnb so much is that asset classes, crypto, stocks, real estate in general are so overvalued. You kind of have to be creative with how you make money and cash flow these days. And I think that Airbnb is one of the best opportunities to do that, because you can buy something that wouldn't work as a long-term investment, and if you switch it and reposition it as a short-term investment, Airbnb, you can squeeze more cash flow out of it. And I think it's lends to a lot of creativity, and I think it's amazing to do. You can do it in each room of your house. You can do it in a garage. I'm going to show you what I did with mine, because I switched it up into 4 units. And I've utilized almost every single square footage of that space to make money. So there's things that I'm going to tell you throughout this video. I'm going to talk about the pricing, what I charge, what I've learned, and what you really need to stay away from, because there's a lot of big problems to have. I think the main thing that tip number 1 to start this out before we get really going is to realize that if this is right for you. Now, this is not just like passive income mailbox money where you sit around and just collect money from a mailbox. Let me give you a great example. I have been through probably 4 property managers in the last 2 years of having this. And each of them will come in with a different pricing structure. Some charges 15%, some charge 10%, and some charge even higher. And then each one will want to redo things. Each one will think that maybe the furniture is the reason why it's not getting as good a reviews as it can, or maybe it is the yard or whatever. And you really need to figure out if you are going to manage this yourself or if you're going to have a property manager, because it is a full-time job. You get text at all hours of the night, you get text at all hours of the morning, and one of the best practices I found around that is to just say, hey, I work as well, so I'm only available from blah 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 to blah blah blah, and try to set some boundaries with these guests. Tip number 2, before we get into the big house tour, is you really need to have the best of the best team that you can have. One of my kind of hiring tricks is, as soon as someone shows you who they are, trust them and believe them and don't second guess it. So if someone misses, let's say you're hiring a new cleaner and they miss a cleaning in the first week, that's going to be pretty indicative of them missing cleanings in the future weeks. So it's certainly not a one strike and you're out kind of policy with me and with the Airbnb, but it is something that you really need to be conscious of. If people are telling you and showing you up front, if they're late for an appointment or whatever, it's more than likely going to happen again. It's most likely that it's going to happen again. So don't be surprised. And I know it's a small little trick and tip, but it is really, really impactful. Also, you're going to be learning something every single step of the way. And I think we have this mental model of things are either right or they're either wrong in investing and in life and something like that. And Airbnb is a great example where you really kind of have to play in this gray area, right? You really have to kind of play in this area where things are not necessarily going to be right or wrong. You're just always going to be learning. So if that's you, if that really resonates with you, that is really, really something to think about. And remember that you're always going to mess up, you're always going to make mistakes, and the property is always going to mess up, the property is always going to make mistakes, and it's just that gray area that you will always be functioning on. It's never going to be a perfectly ran property. It's never going to be a property without any kind of repairs and maintenance. That brings us to another tip. The repair and maintenance can eat you alive. I know people get into this to make quick money, and that's a great way to do it for sure. But you still have to have a reserve, because things will go wrong that you don't even know there will be. A good example is a guest emailed me or emailed the property manager 2 nights ago that said they hit their shins on a small piece of wood that was messed up from a bed frame or something like that. And it wasn't messed up, it was just not on there right when she sent pictures. But it was something that took 35 minutes to resolve, and then we had to get a handyman. Then you have to pay a handyman, let's say $100 to come out and to do this work that is something that is really pretty inconsequential and something that only 1 out of 100 guests will have a problem with. So that's something right there too. And you need to have the reserves, because if not, if you're running close to the margin, it's going to stress you the hell out because that stressed me out. I actually had several rental properties around COVID, going into COVID, and I just couldn't keep up with them. I didn't have the cash reserve, so I had to sell about 9 units of mine, and it was really, really frustrating because if I had just had more capital and if I had saved it up from when I started renting out, things would have been a lot better. Another thing that I have learned through this is that once someone does have the knowledge and information, it's best to maybe pay them just to tell you. You can do it by yourself. I would have gotten a coach earlier in real estate in general, right? And so I talked to my property manager, and she's offering to coach like 2 or 3 people that watch this video. She can't do anything more than that. And listen, you don't need it. You can do it all yourself. You really, really do not. All the information is online. All the information is just at your fingertips now. You don't need it. But if you're someone that wants to pay a little bit of money in order to shortcut some really hard and really expensive lessons, it's worth it, because you will pay for your education one way or another. And that's one of my favorite phrases in investing. You will pay for your education one way or another, and you might as well pay someone to, I think, coach you if you can, and if you really want to kind of be serious and scale up as a business and save time and money, because in the long run, you're going to pay for it no matter one way or another. But you can do it alone, so don't worry about that. And I will put a link in the description for that. First, welcome to the Airbnb that I'm in. It's my Airbnb in Charleston, South Carolina, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done to it because I've been doing a lot of work to it, and there's still an endless supply of things to do. I'm running behind as always, but since this is about investments today and a little investment vlog, let me take you around this investment of mine, which is an Airbnb unit. I actually have 4 units in here. This is the front house, and then there's 3 in the back house, which I actually prefer the one upstairs in the back house myself because it's a little smaller, but I will take you around here. And just remember that it's usually not as disgusting and messy, but I am a gross, just dirty bachelor, and this is how it looks when I come into town, okay? So this is really cool. Right over here, we have this huge backyard that guests can use. Right there. There's a washer and dryer back there. Gonna get a new fence, but there's a little bit of a new fence. And so anyone can use that back there, which is pretty cool. Then we have this wonderful kitchen that I'm cooking up everything macro friendly in here. There we go. Now this rents for, I think, about $200 a night, maybe a little higher during the high seasons, which I think is actually a pretty good deal. As you can see right here, we have TV, Netflix, Hulu. Once again, usually not this dirty, but your boy's in town, and a little bar right there just in case. And then that goes back out into the back thing. I'm actually tell you the numbers on the Airbnb, and we got a full bath in here. I'm sorry, that's not a full bath. It's like a, no, it's a full bath because it has a shower. Okay, what's up? And then go in here, and we have my nasty bed, and I actually threw the blankets off because they used a scented, the cleaners out there, they used a scented detergent, and I am sensitive, so I ripped all the blankets off, redid it, fired them, and then brought in all new cleaners. I'm just kidding, didn't fire them at all. But let me talk about some numbers on here. On the high months so I bought this for $170, no, I bought it for $180 3 years ago, and I took a 203K renovation loan, which means I only had to put down 3% on this, and I got a renovation loan. So the company, or the mortgage company, lent me, that looks nice, lent me $180K plus, I believe it was $30,000 in repairs. So they lent me all that, and I used it, and so my mortgage came out to be like $1,500 because I had PMI, because it was an FHA loan. So if you're not getting FHA loans, you really should look into it because they're really, really great, and you can get one as your permanent residence. Now, I know some people that get them every 2 years, and they try to buy a home every 1 year, and it's actually a pretty good real estate investing trick. And I try to do the same thing, buy a permanent residence once a year, and then you just move into that, stay there. and live there, and you can get your low down payment loans. So with this, FHA is pretty cool because you can get a duplex, triplex, or quadplex with FHA, which means that you're never gonna get a 3% down payment, 3.5% down payment on a multifamily without an FHA for the most part. So it's a really, really great loan, and I think more people should really take advantage of them, but they don't for some reason. So I fixed it all up. I put some more money. I took a HELOC into it. So I think all said and done, I was about $250,000 into it. And I made 4 units and got it approved with the city. I bought it where it wasn't approved because it didn't have to be approved. And they passed an ordinance. And then I had to go through the approval process because they got mad at me. I'm like, hey, listen, like I bought this without any kind of restrictions on here. And then y'all were the ones that restricted it. So that's not my fault. That's on you. So anyway, did that, and I think I get about $75 a night per each of the small units. There's 2 studio units, one bed upstairs, and then 2 1 down here. So 200, maybe 150, 75, 75. So in the high seasons, make as much as $11,000 a month on this, which is really, really cool, really fun. Lots of work though. I had a property manager, and then I got rid of them, and then I got another one, and then they left, and so like it's constantly working, and it's a constant work in progress, which is when people say like passive income, like no, this is not passive income at all. This is like working for it income, but is what it is. So that's pretty cool. Want to show you that my anabolic French toast is almost done, so let's get it. Okay, we are done finally. Got our little peanut butter there. Throw it on here, peanut butter and Greek yogurt. This is what makes it so special, is this sugar-free syrup right here. The real star is this right here. So let's talk a little bit more about investing while I'm eating, because we don't have enough time to do all of it. We gotta do some things at the same time. So I'm constantly stressed out with investing, constantly. And it came from years and years and years of like hustling and struggling and never having enough and trying to like not let this whole business thing fail. And there's a point where you kind of have to get out of that mindset, because there's a point where you have enough, or where the business is doing well enough to like sustain you, and you need to take that survival mode mindset out of your head. And I'm struggling with that because I'm still in survival mode mindset. I'm still like, I gotta hustle. I have all these projects. I have to buy all these projects. I have to do all these things. So yesterday I went up to Columbia and I looked at 3 of my projects and the one next door, and they just weren't getting done fast enough. So I like freaked out. And that's not great, because that stresses me out. And I've been reading these books about all these like great business people and like all these biographies and everything, and they just work until they die, and they don't have any fun. Their kids hate them, their wife or husband or whoever hates them. They go through divorces and stuff like that. And I just feel like that's such an old school way of thinking about things. Like, that's not what I want to do anymore. I don't want that life. I don't want to just like have money in the bank account for no reason. I want to go enjoy it. I want to go like hang out with hotties in Greece or on a yacht or something like that, or just whatever your rich life is. Ramit Sethi talks about like your rich life and stuff like that, and I love that. It basically says that you can have anything you want. You just can't have everything you want. So pick where it's going to be really exciting for you. And I think that like something like that is such a good example of how to live that life, and especially in the context of business and everything else like that. So thinking about that and trying to release and trying to get out of that mindset, but it's so hard. So it's really been a struggle. And I look at all these projects that I bought, and I'm paying thousands of dollars a month in hard money and mortgages and loans and stuff like that for these projects to get them done. I'm like, why? Like, what's that extra money gonna do right now? And you're supposed to invest while you're young, and supposed to like work really hard while you're young, so you can kind of chill out while you're older or whatever. But I kind of came to a point recently, it's like, I'm never going to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm never going to stop making content. Never going to stop doing real estate. So why am I rushing? Why am I running like hell? Like it's going to all, have an end point. No, I mean, this struggle is going to be something I'm going to struggle with forever. And so, or the struggle of the business, like I'm going to be doing the business forever. So what's the point? It's not like I don't get too old to house flip, So
that's something I've been thinking a lot about recently, and I'm wondering if y'all are there too, if y'all are in that kind of mentality of like still just trying to survive, when in reality maybe you don't have to think it that way anymore, you know? Now I have to log everything. I've been logging all my calories for the last 71 days apparently. On a 12-week cut before my birthday for the 34 as a 34-year-old to turn 34. What is wrong with me? But I wanted to give myself the gift of abs for the first time in my entire life. And so I've been really working hard to do that. I have a wonderful trainer to do that with too. His name is Seth. I will link his stuff. I don't know, maybe reach out, get some workouts from him, because he's responsible for all this. I'm not sure if that's like a bad or good thing, but he is. And it's really nice, and I actually believe in this for not just, personal training, but for investing too. You really want to get a coach, I think, because not only you might know how to do something, but that accountability is so important. And if you think about it, like your first employee, your best employee, the person that's going to make you the most money in your entire life is you. And so you really want to optimize that. People are so scared or feel guilty to optimize themselves and spend money on themselves. I'm like, why? Like, you're your most important asset. Like, treat yourself like an employee, treat yourself like an asset, and optimize yourself.